All right, we are live. We're talking
Hi.
on Wednesday with my friend Marty, and today we have a very interesting topic, one that we are both passionate about and have been passionate about. And why don't you take it away, Marty?
Yeah, so you want to be a divorce attorney or a family lawyer or help somebody with a family crisis. So I started my law practice or started my career in law because I had a terrible divorce. I had custody issues, and we went back and forth to court every few months, every 6 months, and it was horrible. It was really expensive, and it was terrible for our kid. And as much as I can see that now, when you're on the inside and you're thinking you are doing what's best for your child, that fighting is never good. I forget which one it is, but is it King Solomon who says, "Fine, I'll chop the baby in half"? Is that who it was, Casey? You probably brushed up a little bit better on your Bible verses, but you're on mute, by the way. So
Yeah. Sorry about that. We had
yeah,
a
so it's one of those things. It's really difficult to see that when you're on the inside and you're fighting, and your lawyers are either supporting you fighting, or they're saying, "Hey, you probably don't want to push this." So a lawyer can really drive the litigation of a family law case in one of three directions, I guess. They can drive you to spend, and maybe you'll wear yourself out, or you'll wear the other party out, and you'll finally come to a settlement. Even if and I've found this through practice for the last 15 years, is even if they don't have a good claim. Like if you've got one party that says, "I want it all," and the lawyer says, "Okay, great, we'll go for it all," knowing that is not the law, and I don't think any state allows one party to get everything from the marriage. But there are some attorneys out there that will push for that. And they see the bank accounts, because we have access to all the financials, because that's one of the first things we do as attorneys. So they know how much they can push their clients. So that's one direction they can go. Another direction they can go, which is the route I chose, which was to educate my clients on what the law was. Try to take some emotion out of it, because I've been through the emotional side. I did it. That's why I went to law school. I had it, like I said, it's in court all the time. I was like, I can do this. So I went to law school, and I wanted to practice family law, and I did for several years. But I took a totally different approach, because by the time I got through law school, I started getting along with my ex-wife, and we started co-parenting, and it was a great thing. So that's what I tried to educate my clients on, especially when there was a custody issue. But I
right.
always educated them on, this is probably what you're going to get. Okay, these are your assets. This is what you're entitled to. This is what the other party's entitled to. Here's your kids, and I believe in 50-50. I'm a total 50-50 parenting plan. I don't know necessarily like the 1 week on, 1 week off, especially for a littler kid. But there are great ways to integrate a plan that works for the kid and it works for the parents. And once you get used to those plans, once the parents get used to those plans, they actually enjoy the weekends off. You don't have a weekend off for years, and then finally you get a weekend off every other weekend. It's like, oh wow, I can have adult time, I can have me time. And once you sell that to your client, it's a whole new world for them, because all they're seeing is, oh my God, my kid is going to be gone, I can't stand that. And it is tough. But once they get used to that notion of, oh wow, there's time for me, and they don't have to feel bad about it. They don't have to feel selfish about it. So those are the good times that I was able to get through. Is really the education and knowing that I am doing what's right for my clients. I've had to fire clients before because they said, no, I want more, I want more, I want I don't think that party should have this much or this much or that.
Right.
So I say I'm not the right attorney for you. I won't take clients on because I'm not the right attorney for them. And I have not taken a family law case in 2.5 years, and I am extremely happy about that because it is very stressful, and you do have opposing counsel who you cannot control. I can't control I can control kind of my client, and I say that, and if you're in family law or if you're thinking about getting in family law, you will find that out. There are some
Yes.
clients that you can educate, but you can't
Yeah.
necessarily control their behavior and what they do when they're not with you. There's a whole lot of issues that we could spend weeks on, just discussing
Literally.
client control, client communication, what they should and shouldn't do. It's a whole process of working in family law. So not only do you have the legal dynamic of family law, you've got the emotional dynamic, and that is what is it's really taxing on a lot of people. There are a lot of family law attorneys that don't let it bother them at all. There are some family law attorneys that you would swear the attorney was their best friend or their sister or their brother
Right.
or whatever because of how zealously they're advocating for their client, but it's not really a zealous representation because they're fighting for things that they know they're not going to get in courts if it goes to a judge. They're just being bullies, they're being over aggressive, and it's really difficult sometimes to get over those hurdles. And that's why I don't practice family law anymore. It's not necessarily that it wasn't rewarding, because it is extremely rewarding if you do something right for a client that really appreciates it. And for those times, it was great. For getting dads' rights, it's been fantastic. I've had dads that hadn't seen their kids in a year, 2 years, and I was able to get them time sharing. We call it time sharing in Florida. It's visitation in a lot of other places, but so rewarding and also the stressful. So that's my 2 cents on family law. KC, what about you? How'd you get involved in it, and what are your overall views on it?
You know what? I love what you had to say there. And the fact of the matter is, family law was not something that I was passionate about in law school. Not something I was passionate about. It seemed like some big mystery to me when I started practicing law. And it was, those family law attorneys do that. And every once in a while, I would have to dip my big toe in the water on a family case because I worked at a big civil firm. I worked at 2 different big civil firms, and for lack of a better expression, I don't know if you remember the Life commercial, give it to Mikey. He'll eat anything, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
and in a lot of ways, especially the second, I only worked at 2 law firms before I went out on my own, for about 8 years total, and both of them were very similar. They represented Fortune 500 companies through insurance carriers, right?
Mhm. Right.
And occasionally individual clients that had, big problems. Um, the fact of the matter is that I learned, especially at that second, through challenges, to just self-educate about areas of the law. And then I did dip my big toe in the water on family law, and I found out I was very, very passionate about it. In fact, I loved it. It's something that really made me. It moved the needle for me in the advocacy part of like why I went to law school, right? To actually help somebody individually in their life, to help a kid, to help
Yep.
a mom or a dad, and at a certain point, I got a mentor, an informal mentor, and that was the Texas Bar College. And because I had went up against at that time my most challenging adversary, I was about 2 years into my own private law firm at that point, and a friend of mine hired me on a case, and we had been friends for a long time, and that individual had bad experiences with some other law firm, and or maybe two other law firm, doesn't really matter, and came
Yeah.
to me saying, look, I know you care, so I trust you with my family, with my case, with my children. And I learned in that case, in that fight against that very skilled and sophisticated adversary, you're right, the financial exhaustion, that is certainly a tactic in family law, right? That I will financially exhaust. If Marty's my opponent, I will exhaust Marty's retainer through tactics that you can feel are underhanded. They're legally acceptable, um, and on the other hand, they feel really underhanded, but they're
Right.
legally acceptable. And you've just got to learn how to weather the storm, caution the client as to where to spend their valuable resources, because you're in charge of protecting, you're the steward of their retainer, of their retainer, and any second retainer, third retainer that you must need. You've got to not engage in silly fights and don't die on every hill. And you're right, educating your client. So I became very passionate about it as a result of that experience. Went and did 45 hours, maybe it was close to 80. To become a member of the bar college, you really got to be an expert in continuing education. And I focused heavily on family and criminal law. And it has served me extremely well. I've remained a bar college member, which means, you do more than double the required continuing education hours. And that's not to toot my own horn.
Well,
It is
it goes to proper training, and there are so many people out there that say, I can do a family law case. They do civil law, like you were kind of forced to take that first couple family law cases you had. But
yeah,
there are so many people that try to dabble in it,
and you
without
don't want to
having.
be, yeah, you don't want to be without. That's a dangerous thing to do, to dabble in anything.
Yeah,
Um,
especially I think especially family law, because you are dealing with somebody's life. Yeah, don't dabble in other things. Don't dabble in family law, and there are a bunch of other ones that shouldn't dabble in too. But man, you
Criminal
mess up
defense,
somebody. Yeah, criminal defense, right?
right? You're
Criminal
talking
defense
about
and
somebody's
family law.
liberty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
anytime you're talking about somebody's liberty, their property, their kids, it's not something to take lightly. Get
bankruptcy,
a
right?
mentor.
Bankruptcy and immigration.
Yeah, but we're talking specifically about family law, but
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Uh, it's get a mentor, take some continuing education, make sure you know what you're doing, ask somebody, take a case as co-counsel with somebody.
yeah,
If you want to take a case, say great, I'm gonna hire KC, I'm gonna hire somebody that's um, specialized in this, and I'm not going to get paid. I'm going to learn from them. They're going to get paid, or figure out a fee sharing if your state allows it, and go from there. You just
yeah.
can't
That's
double
so
charge the
critical.
client for learning, but you know there are some things that you could do while you're learning.
Yeah, yeah. Getting that ride along experience and collaborating with a colleague, finding a formal or informal mentor. Many states have Facebook groups for family law attorneys. I don't engage in that too often. Um, I do sometimes. I think that's a great resource for young attorneys, but I also, I just don't engage in social media that much, because
Right.
I want social media to work for me, and not I don't want to just be overly engaged,
There are,
and
there are
you know how it
resources.
is. You can get stuck in a feed, and you're there for
Yeah.
hours, right? And so again, but for a young lawyer with questions, or even a sophisticated lawyer with questions about an area that you're just not really, like example, been doing family law for a long time, and marital agreements are still so we're talking about an agreement between a husband and a wife while they're still married, where we're gonna treat certain property. For example, this little white case that has Apple AirPods in it, let's pretend this is a valuable asset. We're going to treat this valuable asset as wife's property. So we're going to create an agreement that says this is now wife's sole and separate property. Well, that's not an area of, even being an expert in, or craftsman or craftswoman in family law is not always going to prepare you for dealing with these little nuances of the law. And educating yourself, which is what you talked about, educating yourself so you can educate your clients, is critical. And I think that, and you've also got to be passionate. And then one other thing you got to be careful about is, this is a new phrase coming in the family law world, is compassion fatigue. This is a place where a lot of withdrawals are taken from the emotional bank, right? Little paychecks from the heart instead of to the heart. Sometimes you get a lot of big paychecks to the heart. You help a kid, you've defended a parent from an unfair allegation, whatever that may be.
Right.
But a lot of times there's a lot of emotional withdrawals from the heart, and it hurts. And you have to,
ruling goes against you. A client doesn't appreciate what you did for them. Opposing party threatens you. Opposing counsel threatens you. For doing the right thing. Those I totally get it. Yeah, and those are the reasons I decided I wasn't practicing anymore. It just got to be too much, and I love estate planning, so that's just what I decided to do.
Yeah, I can only tell you that I totally respect you for finding a way to get your practice out of the courtroom and into the boardroom. I love that about what you do. And sometimes I really look at that and I go, man, Marty's got it. Marty's got it figured out. But I still love the advocacy. I love the preparation. And a lot of times I feel like, when you hear these old, I like to use a lot of sports metaphors because it makes sense for a lot of people. When you hear people like Bill Belichick or Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or Michael Jordan, LeBron James, they need no more rings, right? Accolades.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, they have got all the trophies and medals they need, but they still love the planning and the preparing and the competition. And as long as that drives you, as long as that passion wakes you up, then keep doing it, and also make sure that if you are doing family law, right? So you want to be a family law, make sure you're doing it because your passion is driving you to do it.
Yeah. If you're doing it just for money, don't.
It will make it much harder if that's the sole reason, is that you're just doing it
or you'll be cold and you will not be properly compassionate.
Yeah. It's a hard business, and it's not one that you can't fake that, right? You can, I know that during the years that I did insurance defense litigation, I could phone it in. Phoned it in today. I did my minimum billable requirement. I'm just above average, and I handled some things for some clients who will never care and never know, right? I typed a report, right? What was that report from Office Space, your TCP/IP report? I don't know how many thousands of those I prepared. It's
I got my Orange Beach report done. Here you go.
Yeah, not very rewarding work, but steady work with, steady pay and steady benefits and steady commutes on the highway. And, if you want to get away from all that and get into the real meat and potatoes of why you. I think many of us went to
Heart and
law
soul.
school.
I would say heart and soul more than meat and potatoes.
Yeah, heart and soul of
Heart and
because
soul
you're talking
of
about.
helping somebody. Then family law might be for you.
Yeah, that could be it, because that is really what it's all about. Is you got to wake up every day ready to help people, because they are entrusting you with really their most important thing.
Hmm.
In my opinion, what we do is we represent people. When the chips are down, they need you the most to defend their family, their property, and sometimes their liberty.
Yep.
Right. And those are the three things that all come into play in family law. The liberty part, the least of all, because that's only when they're being held in contempt of court for not paying child support or destroying.
Or a false domestic abuse charge.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
unfortunately, there's a whole lot of those. I call it
Happens.
divorce planning.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm going to get
Yeah, terrible divorce planning, but it
happens.
happens so
Yeah.
often. So, hey, I think our
We're
time.
at time.
Final 10 seconds. What do you got?
I think that there's nothing that can there's nothing that can prepare you better if you want to be a divorce attorney than really trying to be a craftsman in your trade. And there's also something equally important about making sure that you're taking the appropriate steps to protect yourself from compassion fatigue, was what we call it now. Giving yourself some white space, going to the gym, finding some mental health, riding a motorcycle, whatever it may, painting, right? But it can be anything that ends with ing except drinking, and
Right.
whatever, I guess, being a junkie. Those are the things that you got to guard against, because that Miller Lite's not going to solve your compassion fatigue. It may taste good, but it's not going to solve your compassion fatigue.
Right.
And it's
Right.
going to cost you more the next day, because you're not going to be sharp and you're not going to be ready to get up and help people.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
bring the passion and bring the persistence, because you can really make a positive impact on people's lives.
Right. And I would end with, it's an empathetic process. Keep the
Yeah.
compassion out, throw empathy in it. And if you don't know what empathy is, look it up, study it, and that will help you through so many issues where you get too emotionally attached. Be empathetic, not compassionate.
Right on. Thanks, brother.
All right. Thank you.
Great one. We'll see you next Wednesday.
All right.